that's the first part over with bus journey. So now I've left the number 78, a good go northeast bus, and heading out onto the walk itself. And it's very easy. Come out of the bus station, just turn left and keep going straight on. So what we've done is we've just left the interchange, gone through Park Lane, gone straight through the Bridges shopping centre, and we are here on Crow Tree Road. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going straight on, and from here, Propellers of the City, we'll be seeing a beautiful bronze track of all the ships that were built in Sunderland from about 1870 I think. Then we carry on through Keel Square, cross St Mary's Boulevard, continue following this list of ships that have been built up to the new building. Then we'll turn right, and then we're going to continue around and across the River Wear. So that's our plan for the first part of the day. Get across over the River Wear, and from then on we're going to be heading out towards the countryside. Sculpture that's sadly fenced off is called Propellers of the City. It marks the start of the keel line, the list of ships that have been built in Sunderland over the years, and it starts with, well, I can't see the one that it starts with some leaves over it, but 1786 is the first marked ship built in Sunderland. But after that there's a Speculator in 1787. We'll follow the line of brass plaques for, well, it looks about 200 metres, revealing all the ships that have been built in Sunderland over the years. We don't reach the end because there's some new building work taking place, but it's a mighty impressive list. So let's continue with the walk. Just to take an example, in 1837 there was the ship William Gales, the William and Catherine, the Virgil, the Westminster, Urania, Victoria, Sarepta, Sultan, Tar, Salisbury, Harrison, Minstrel, Mary Isabella, Margaret and Emily, Mandane, Loyal Packet, Lord John Russell, Howson's, Joseph Middleton, bought in the spring, Glen Isla, Gypsy, Glencoe, Gilbert Henderson, George Welsford, Emerald, Ganges, Cornelius Ellen, Climax, British Queen, Braganza, and Elliot Arthur, Alpha, Alderman Thompson, Aimwell Eyre, and Adrastus, all 1837. What a list. By the time we've reached 1870, we realised that the list we read earlier was a very short list. There weren't many ships built that year. Here, 1870, Witness, Yarra, Zay, Vanguard, Wells, Tweed, Old Piano, Titian, Trayune, the Barton, Stevenson, Stratford, Stanton, Southwick, Silkston, Solent, Sesame, Seven, Sailor, Sea Spray, Ruth, Said, Rosalind, Polino, Precursor, Olga, Pauline, Peace, Nina Offerton, and it goes on for quite some time until you end up with Amy, Ancient Britain, Argos and Ariadne. What a year that was. It's no wonder that steel and shipbuilding and coal made Sunderland the rich, wealthy city it was. Like 100 metres, maybe more. We're into the new build that's taking place here, and we've reached 1903. Whitby Abbey, Wentbridge, Under, Wensleydale, Umzumbi, Thongwa, St Agnes, Strocco, Simoon, and so it goes on. 1903 was actually quite a quiet year. There only looks of about 30 ships built then. So we continue with our walk. Where we're heading to next is on to the bridge of the River Wear. It's a very impressive structure in itself, but for now, because we're heading to the building site, we turn out of the new construction that's going on, the first glimpse of the sea, we turn onto Wearmouth Bridge. We're heading north, and there's the road bridge and the railway bridge to the left, and the first sight of the River Wear. There's a new ship come in overnight, just a small ship, we'll see that later. But for now, we continue north, I would guess about a mile, mile and a half, and on the way we pass a hospital on the right, and then there's the corn mill, the lime kilns, which we won't see on the way out before we reach the sound mirror that's out in the countryside. So let's keep walking. I've driven past the clock a number of times and I've wondered what on earth it's there for, because it's not exactly a busy thoroughfare. But it turns out that the clock's been funded by the North Area Committee of Sunderland City Council to commemorate the centenary of the First World War, 1914-18, during which an estimated 16 million people were killed and a further 20 million were wounded. Why should this clock be placed here? Well, the war came to Sunderland. Of all the days of the year, it was 11 p.m. on the 1st of April 1916 when a German Imperial Navy Zeppelin, the L-11, approached from the southwest and dropped its deadly load of bombs on the city. Crossing the River Wear, just to our south, having first dropped bombs on Millfield and Deptford, the Zeppelin bombed Monk Wearmouth railway station and the goods yard, with the roof over the railway lines at the station being badly damaged. Other sites hit included Thomas Street School, North Bridge Street, Victor Street and Whitburn Street, where St Benet's Church was damaged. Across Sunderland, 16 people were killed that night, with others from among the 25 seriously injured dying over the following days. Well, ahead of us you can probably just about catch the sight of the white windmill. It was a corn mill, and that's going to be our destination, at least to start with. But what are we going to imagine as we walk there? Well, let's try to put ourselves back into the early years of the 20th century. To our left, major coal mine, steelworks, ironworks, and to our right, where there is now a Toyota and the metro line across to South Shields, that was shunting yards, extensive shunting yards, as you can see in maps of the early 20th century. So imagine the clanking and the banging, the sounds of whistles and the busyness of this area. Then think of the smells of the coal and the steelworks and the ironworks. Slowly going north, we come to the hospital to the right and Margaret Thompson Park to the left. There's a nice little cafe in Margaret Thompson Park if you want to take a quick break. We're still heading north, and while now it's a residential area, towards the top of the hill we start to come to a little hive of industry. The lime kiln, the corn mill and the quarry that was beyond it. Busy little area. Now we're just heading up towards the windmill, the corn mill. It's at the northern edge of Sunderland. It's a busy little area. So there you are. There's our windmill. Sadly, there doesn't appear to be a plaque explaining things, but no doubt Wikipedia will give lots and lots of guidance as to why there's a corn mill at the edge of Sunderland. But this was a busy area, as we'll be seeing after we've been up to see the sound mirror, because the way we return will take us back to the lime kilns. Now, immediately after the windmill, we want to be turning left up these stairs. We're heading more into open country, the first time that on this walk we've really entered the country. But we're heading for the acoustic mirrors, and you can see how close to the country we are. Still looking north, now east, and we can see the sea. What a beautiful sight. At last, heading into the country. I don't know why you walk. I walk for my physical health, I walk for my mental health, but I also walk because I want to learn things. And on this journey, I'm learning because I've been reading the maps. I looked at the map from around 1900 and noticed this area was full of little railway lines, and they took a substance from a quarry to this point. And you see there was certainly a building here. The building was a lime kiln. And I guess because there was limestone in the area, the quarry further north, and there was coal, it was thought it's a really good place to build lime kilns, make some extra money out of our coal and use the resources of the limestone. And that's what they did. The limestone would have been brought up in little tubs, brought up here to the top of the lime kilns, which we'll see later, and drop down. At the same time, coal will be brought in the same way. And here you'll find a hive of industry. The people of Sunderland finding new ways to earn some extra pounds. So on your journey, please take time to come up here. It's not wonderful, but it's a really interesting sight to see, and wonder, how did people in the past earn their money to get by? I can see from here there's the metal lighthouse, the church, and then we're seeing along up the coast. What a wonderful place. Right, let's keep walking. As you might imagine, a tub of limestone need not necessarily be a little tub. If it's pulled by a horse, it could be modelled, the wagon could be modelled on the lines of a children wagon, which you can see in another of the videos, and that could hold about 2 tons of limestone. So imagine the quarry just behind us. This is one of the little lines, it's now a path, that carried the limestone up to the lime kilns, being pulled by horses, the lime kilns being charged with both coal and limestone, and a little business being developed. But our interest right now is in the acoustic mirrors, the sound mirrors, which are behind us and slightly to our right. Let's continue with that walk. We start thinking about turning left. It's marked as a car park in some of the maps around here, but to our left is a large allotment area, typical of a mining community, of course, and we head gently uphill, following a nice road to a car park, and then to our sound mirror. Remember the events of April the 1st, 2016, the Zeppelin dropping bombs? Well, the good people of the northeast decided they needed to do something to detect incoming airships early. They built this sound mirror. It's a concrete plinth. It's 3.5, 4 meters tall, and so the plaque describes it was one of our listening ears of World War I. Why did the airships attack? Well, fairly obviously because Sunderland was a hive of industry. They were building ships for war here. Sunderland docks were the obvious target for the raid. And on April the 1st, 2016, that Zeppelin attack caused major damage to Monk Wearmouth station houses and the docks, killing 22 people and injuring 100 others. Did the presence of a sound mirror stop the airship attacks? Well, there was only the one airship attack. By the time Fulwell's mirror was built, most German and British airships were used only for reconnaissance at sea, but threats in the air were replaced by early warplanes such as the German Fokker D7. The acoustic mirrors picked up sound waves from approaching German airships and other aircraft, it was thought, giving a 15-minute early warning of attacks. Anti-aircraft weapons could then be alerted and fired. It describes here that a listening ear operator probably sat in an underground trench in front of the mirror. Here at Fulwell, archaeological investigation didn't find a trench, so the listener possibly sat in a hut nearby. How would you feel to be a radio listener if you got a signal that there was an enemy aircraft on the way to bomb this area, asks the plaque. And then you start thinking, how am I going to give the warning? They certainly had telephones in those days, so maybe they did that. Or maybe they had someone with a bike who would go to a police station or something, say, there's an air raid on its way. But what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to test if the system worked. I've got a copy of the sound of an aero engine of the period. I'm going to set that running, and I'm going to be using that and a recorder and headphones and a microphone to try and find out what I hear. Should be interesting. Will I hear anything? Did the system work? But here we are in front of the acoustic mirror. So let's set up for our experiment. So we're now ready to begin our experiment. I have a recorder in my hand and we'll be able to pick up the sound. You can just about hear it through the camera. It's an approximation of the sound of a World War I aero engine. So let's get closer. Turn the recorder on. And I can certainly hear it when it pointed this way. But what happens when I point it directly into the sound mirror? Well, it's certainly picking a sound up. And there's the sound. If I come to this side, to my ears, it does sound slightly less strong. So there is some directionality, because I would expect it to be louder this side. So our observer hears the noise, he goes on the phone, he alerts people, he gives 15 minutes notice, but think how he thinks perhaps the bomb might drop on his family, on his house. We're now going to be continuing our walk. We're going off east and we'll be passing a beautiful Art Deco group of shops, and we reach the sea. We turn right going south along the seafront. We pass some beautiful sights down there, and we also pass a really good chip shop. So let's continue with our walk. It wasn't so long ago when we were standing on top of a green hill looking out across Sunderland. I was saying that we were on top of a lime kiln. Well, this is the bottom of one of those lime kilns, and what would happen is that the kilns would be charged from the top. They would be lit at the bottom. There would be plenty of airflow coming from the bottom, and the lime would be processed. This is the lime kiln. It's at the back of Pullman's Skoda, and you've got this very good one here, one next to it that seems to be a little bit smaller, and then a number of other kilns further along. This must have been quite a hive of activity in the area, because you've got the quarry further down. That would provide employment for some. The wagon way taking the limestone from the quarry to here would provide employment. And then you've got the windmill that is just around the corner. You can catch a sight of some of its sails. And then here you've got the employment provided by the lime kiln. And all because they've got two ready-made natural resources. They've got the limestone and they've got the coal provided by the collieries in the Sunderland area. So what appears to be a sort of sleepy residential area was once a hub of activity. Now it's just a car sales garage. Oh well. Let's continue with the walk. We're heading on down east now. It may just be me, but I seem to have noticed an awful lot of the typical style of bungalow in Sunderland. And here at the corner of Sea Road and this other main road heading north are a little line of these bungalows. There are streets of them, and my guess is that they were built for miners, but I don't know. But now we continue our walk after that very short 10-metre detour, and we head back onto Sea Road. And so we come to the Art Deco shops. They're on Sea Road. There's only a small group. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shops. I love an Art Deco building. I'm not too sure the roofs are fantastic because they're usually flat, but those simple lines, it's really beautiful. It takes you back, well, it takes me back to well before I was born, but I do love an Art Deco building. So we continue, still heading east, down towards the coast. As we head down Sea Road, Seaburn Gardens, to the left is a blue plaque to Wing Commander Claude Alwood Ridley, and here we're back to the airships theme. As a second Lieutenant Royal Fusiliers, he was attached to the Royal Flying Corps in 1915 as a pilot. He was awarded the Military Cross for action against Zeppelin raids and the Distinguished Service Order for conspicuous gallantry and resource in the execution of a special mission behind enemy lines. Now that's something worth reading about. So we continue down. We've got the sea ahead of us. The parking cones are there to discourage parking because at the moment it's Sunderland's Festival of Light, which is really worth coming to see. So really a good detour to head right down to the coast and join the England Coast Path. Behind me is the metal lighthouse, and if you can see just at the back of that, there is the lighthouse at the entrance to Sunderland Harbour. From now on we're following the sea for about the next mile, and there are 2 sights to see and a chip shop to stop off at. So let's continue with our walk. Here we go. So as we walk along the England Coast Path, which also follows another trail, the Bede's Way, we come to the beautiful lighthouse. I mean, you can do with the coat of paint, but let's face it, it's cast iron, it's going to rust. It's the lighthouse, Broker Cliff Park, unique structure. It's Sunderland after all. Was originally built in 1856 on Sunderland's South Pier, but it was dismantled and re-erected here in 1983 to allow for harbour improvements. And this certainly improves this area by having the lighthouse being placed here. And that's Seaburn Beach, that's Whitburn Beach, very nice beach indeed. My dog loves it here. Now just past the lighthouse you can come to a choice of ways. You can drop down to the lower terrace and follow around there. I tend to stay higher up because there are 2 things that I want to see. The first is a gun emplacement from the First and Second World Wars, and the second is a monument to the Venerable Bede, the greatest scholar of his age, it is thought. So let's continue along here. So as we head up along the inland coast path, we come to these benches and the surrounding windbreaks, but these are far more than they at first seem. These are actually a little bit of history all by themselves. Two of them, there are round grass areas in the middle of them, and there looks like the windbreak, but they aren't windbreaks. Well, they are now, very effective windbreaks with the wind coming off the sea. But what they are is the site of the Roker Battery, which marked Sunderland at war. The Roker Battery has been the first line of defence for the city for over 200 years. Start off with two 4.7-inch naval guns and finally progressed to two 6-inch guns along with searchlights in the positions seen before you. This is such an interesting area and such an interesting walk. It's an opportunity to think and imagine, and you can imagine numbers of men working here on the gun directors, hearing signals being called in from radar in the Second World War and from the perhaps from the sound mirrors in the First. So here we are, two gun emplacements, but just beyond them, very close to them, is that pillar, and that pillar is a mark to honour a great scholar of the early years. He was a historian, a monk, based in the twin monasteries of Jarrow and Monk Wearmouth. I'll be taking some photographs of it in close-up, but this honours a great man, the Venerable Bede, who wrote the first history of England, or Great Britain really. He was born on land belonging to the monastery of St Peter at Wearmouth, one half of the famous Wearmouth Jarrow Monastery. Bede's scholarship covered a wide range of other subjects besides history, including theology, astronomy, science, music and language. The cross was erected in 1904, and until then there was no memorial to Bede in the northeast. Thank goodness that his work, his legacy has been preserved here. At this point we drop down off the high road path on the England coast path and of Bede's Way, and I'm going to drop down to the beach because there's a chip shop there that I want to visit. So if you'd like to join me at the chip shop, let's head down. So it's just here, sharp turn left, and now we're heading north. Good chips.
Everyone delights to spend their summer holiday down beside the side of the silvery sea. I'm no exception to the rule, in fact divide my way. I'd reside by the side of the silvery sea. But when you're just a common old garden smith or Jones or Brown, a Christmas up in town, you've got to settle down. You save up all the money you can till summer comes around. Then away you go to a spot you know, where the cockle shells are found. Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside. I do like to be beside the sea. I do like to be upon the from seaside. I'll be beside myself with glee, and there's lots of girls beside. I should like to be beside the seaside, beside the sea.
And so as we head along the seafront, heading on towards the North Pier, we pass pier fish and chips. When they're open, for me they're the best fish and chips on this part of the coast anyway. We're not going to be walking on the pier. You can choose to. It is a good walk. I've been to the end there and I've seen porpoises playing around in the sea just at the head. There's lots of anglers there and it's a very interesting place. Early in the morning you'll see plenty of wild swimmers out here. But not me. So the idea is now to continue following around. This is still the England coast path, and there are two things to notice on the way. First will be the marina, to compare it then, 1900, with now, and recognise there have been some enormous changes in the shape and size of the marina. So we'll continue around here, and then eventually after that there's the glassworks, because that's what Sunderland was also famous for. It wasn't just iron and steel shipbuilding and collieries, it was for its glass. Sunderland glass was famous around the world. You'll see from the maps that I'm going to be putting on as well that this marina has changed its shape and size. Once it used to be a commercial dock, now it's just marina with lots and lots of boats to it. Behind me you'd have seen not just a number of household dwellings, but you'd have seen shipyards, because it was here that the shipyard started, and they went in another 2 miles inland. It was a very busy dockyard, reckoned by some to be the largest shipbuilding city in the world. So we're on the last section of the route now, following the line of the River Wear. All the land on this northern side of the River Wear is comprised of shipyards, either to repair ships or, more often, to actually build them. And it's surprising how far inland the shipyards extended. Up to 2 miles. And they didn't just build the ships, but in a company called Doxford's, they also made some of the best engines for ships. But all that has long since passed. Even the glassworks, the National Glass Centre, which you can see ahead of us, is a teaching centre, and the display centre at the moment it's under refurbishment, so we're not going to be seeing much, but this is the National Glass Centre. We won't be seeing much more, we'll follow and close, but that is our walk, following some of the route around Sunderland. It's a beautiful area and it's really worthwhile visiting. There's so much history, you get to talk to the locals, they're very friendly too. So as we pass the cafe at the Glass Centre, then we close our walk. Enjoy your walking, look after yourselves. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, helps me, and perhaps will encourage others to listen in and see some of the great walks from a County Durham bus.